Hello, everybody. Welcome to Love and Money Live.
One more time.
One more time. We are back from vacation. We had a wonderful vacation. Oh my gosh.
So good.
Celebrating 20 years.
20
It
years.
was great.
Took the kids to Branson.
Yep.
Went to an awesome sight and sound show called Samson. Fantastic.
Yes.
If you're in Branson, check it out. It's worth the money. Best money I spent.
Yeah.
Gained 10 pounds. Just going to be transparent
So did I.
with our community because, all right, literally I lost 18 pounds. I gained 10 back.
Right.
So I'm still 8 ahead.
All right,
Is
boom.
what I'm telling myself.
There we go.
Never passed the opportunity to eat a piece of cake.
No, he didn't.
Or anything.
No, you
and
didn't.
gained 10 pounds.
There
and
we go.
I don't care.
So we had lots of opportunities on this trip for tipping. That's right, we did, didn't we?
I'm so excited about this subject today.
Absolutely.
I'm a service industry guy.
Yeah.
Tell
them about how much working in restaurants you did.
Yeah, so I worked in restaurants, total combined. My first restaurant job was at a breakfast place called La Peep when I was 16. And I worked in restaurants for, oh my goodness, almost 12 years. And I worked as a host. I bussed tables. I bar backed. I waited tables. I did fine dining. I worked at place called Old Chicago. So I did it all. I worked at the country clubs. I had a little bit of everything. And it was really for a long time, I mean, not in high school, but when I got out of school, it's how I survived before I got into the financial planning industry and started, being able to pay my rent. But really, until I was literally 27, I was in the restaurant industry doing something to make ends meet.
Well, the funny thing is that he tells me stories about people who are tipping one person brought left some change, and Scott literally ran after him, and as he was driving away, threw the change at him.
Yeah, I told him, if this is all you can leave, you need it more than I do.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I gave it back to him.
That's right.
And
but
he
then
was
you had
horrified.
somebody else you threw it at.
Yeah, I threw change at a truck one night.
Yeah.
Probably not my finest moment.
Yeah.
Probably not the best witness or character revelation. But it's.
Oh, and you would tell me that you could see bad tippers.
Oh, I could see them. If they showed up with a coupon, I was host. So when I worked at Old Chicago, we had these things called something Pow Bucks. I think it was called Pow Bucks. And when somebody whipped out a Pow Buck, I was like, oh, here we go. I'm going to get like $3. Because even though their bill, maybe they got 3 free pizzas and maybe they just got Cokes, they didn't get a beer or anything. Maybe they, their bill was only $3. They would tip on that $3 and leave 30 cents. So I'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
But tipping is anybody that's been in the service industry, I'll just say this. Any of you that are out there watching this, if you've been in the service industry, you're going to nod with me all day long.
Yes. Because
we've been there, we've lived it. But at the same time, people that haven't been in the service industry, my beautiful bride, they don't always know.
I was a lifeguard. We didn't get tips.
Right. So that's what we're talking today. I'm super excited because we've got this is a fun one. This is kind of light, but
really important.
Our savers and security seekers, those two primary money personalities, might not like this as much as our flyers, our spenders, and our risk takers.
That's right, exactly. So really, really good. And you know what's interesting is how much we find that tipping actually impacts relationships as well. Oftentimes it's like you have a new service provider and you're like, should we tip them? Shouldn't we? You kind of had that little conversation. Now, Scott and I, when we first started dating, we dated for about 2 years before I got married. Scott always paid at first. For the first, I would say 6-7 months, he always paid. And then I was like, okay, we can split sometimes. Not split, but I can pay sometimes. Split. I can pay sometimes and stuff like that. So then when we would go out, I would pay and he would notice. I wasn't quite as generous of a tipper as he was. And back then, it wasn't like a standard that everybody did 20%. It was actually more 10% way back when.
Yeah.
But even then, I struggled with 10%. So it's like, gosh, and I didn't really, frankly, I didn't think about it from the other person's perspective. I was just thinking about it from my perspective and what I was paying out. I wasn't thinking about the other person, this is what they were living on. Mm-hmm. I just didn't, my parents weren't raised in this, didn't grow up and have those kind of jobs. I didn't have any friends that had any that worked in that industry. So it just never, ever, ever occurred to me. It's so great. Oh, hi. Oh, by the way, we love to see hearts. We love to see thumbs up. Hi, Allison out there along the way. So give us some love. We love that. But at any rate, it really does impact your relationship. And it's so funny because there's so much opportunity to tip now. It's becoming such an issue inside of relationships. And it's like if one person likes to tip, they don't even ask the other person. But if the other person doesn't like to tip, they're like, should we tip them? Do we need to tip them? Do we have to tip them? So, just really important stuff.
Yeah.
So we're excited to tackle it today.
Yeah, so, and I want to let you know you're not alone. I've got this, Beth found this article and I thought it was so awesome. It's actually at Bravo, bravo.com, like literally the TV station Bravo. And it says, you can learn a lot from watching your date tips habits in restaurants. And it gave some examples, and it was all talking about stars. So, like, it didn't reference what star, but it said one of the Big Bang Theory stars went out with this guy, and he left an 8% tip, and she knew that wasn't the guy for her. And she, like, up to that point, the date was like a 10.
Right.
Up to that
so
point.
Here's the thing. If you're dating someone, watch how they tip.
You know what? I gotta tell this crazy.
You can learn a lot about them, can't you? You can learn about anybody. A girlfriend that you're going out to lunch with or whatever.
Right.
You can learn a lot about people and how much they tip.
I was bussing tables at a fine dining restaurant. This is a true story. I'm not making this up. I was bussing tables. I watched this dad who they had a family of 6. I watched the dad pay, and they paid in cash because not everybody, especially 25 years ago, used their credit cards. A lot of people paid in cash. Like I bet 50% 25 years ago paid in cash. So I watched the whole table leave. I watched a grandmother come back, look at the bill, and take the tip money out and stick it in her pocket.
Oh,
what? So now you got to remember, I was a fairly obnoxious teenager. I ran after the dad, the guy, and said, and I don't know what I was thinking. I said to him, I just watched your mom pull the tip out of the they were those pocket things, and put it in her pocket. And the lady's standing right here. I don't know what gave me the boldness to do that. It was the most. What was I thinking? Well, like I just saw it as me protecting my waiter, who I took care of.
Yeah.
And so he was horrified. Gave me the money back. She's beat red. I go into my restaurant. I tell my manager, expecting he's going to tell me what an amazing employee I am. And he says, we just lost a customer for life. You can never do that again. So, horrifying, didn't handle the situation well, but that kind of stuff happens.
But then you also have people, on the other hand, we've heard stories where people, like, one spouse won't tip enough and another will, like, kind of say, oh, I have to go to the restroom, and then they leave, and then they put some more cash on there. Have you ever heard of that before?
I've seen that happen as well.
Have you ever heard that before?
Yep, I've seen it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Okay, so I want to read this thing about Oprah Winfrey.
Okay, this is
So it says, Oprah Winfrey recently told Jimmy Kimmel a story on her podcast about her very first date with longtime beau Stegman Graham. He had revealed he didn't tip the waiter after paying for their dinner date because he forgot. Well, forgetting that's not going to fly with Oprah.
Okay, Oprah is okay with just forgetting to tip?
Okay, so this is what Oprah did. This is why I think Oprah is awesome.
She rocks.
Hey, is Oprah watching?
Hey, hi Oprah.
Hey Oprah. No, you're not. Of course she made him turn the car around, go back in, and leave a generous tip for the staff. She told Jimmy later that he was thinking in the moment that maybe this is the wrong guy. But at the end of the date, Stegman sat her down and basically said, listen, I was so stressed out during this date because you're Oprah. Which,
Can you imagine?
If you're dating Oprah, your first date, of course you're going to, I don't know. I don't think I would have left the tip either. I think I would have forgotten or just been so in the moment that I'm on a date with Oprah, everybody's looking at me. I just would probably want to get out of that restaurant. But Stegman came totally clean with her and told her the real reason. And so, sometimes we're going to forget, sometimes things are going to happen, but the reality is that if you're not agreeing as a couple about tipping, you're going to end up in terrible shape. So let's jump into some tipping tips.
Tipping tips.
Oh, okay, and I'm not dissing millennials at all on this. I know millennials get a bad rap about everything. I feel like millennials get picked on all the time, but there was this article in was it USA Today this week?
Yes,
it was in the USA Today.
Yep.
See, when you're on vacation, you actually read stuff.
Yes.
And it said that millennials only tip around 8%, as were Gen Xers and baby boomers tip closer to 15%. So I don't know if that's really true. I don't know how you get that data, but
we're going to give you some tipping tips so you can have some ideas. And this is one thing that, especially if you're with a spouse, obviously if you're married, you're with your spouse, get the category agreement right. what kind of category is it, and then let's agree on the kind of tipping that we're going to give, because there's no sense in having an argument after you go out to dinner about how much you're going to.
And it can be confusing. And I didn't even know we were going to do this subject until this morning. But 2 days ago, I had to take Bethennys Car to get serviced, and this young man returned my car. Coolest kid in the world. He washed it. They didn't have to wash it, but my dealership's awesome, so they did. And he washed it, and as he handed me the keys, he said, "It was totally my pleasure washing your car. It's a beautiful car." It was actually Bethany's car, because mine he wouldn't have said that about. But I thought to myself, what a great guy. And that night, I said to Beth, "Oh, I wish I would have tipped him." And she was like, "What? He's that? Why would have you tipped the guy? I mean, you would have messed up the moment. It would have just felt forced." And so we were just having this conversation. Yeah. There's a little confusion about when to tip, who to tip, and how to tip. Where is there not something on every cash register in America for tips?
Yeah.
I mean, the only places you don't see them are like at Come and Go.
Right.
So, yeah. So,
now,
anyways.
The other thing I do want to say about tips, and like especially for people like myself that maybe haven't thought about the fact that for a lot of these people, it is a form of income and survival.
Especially with food service.
Yeah, especially with food service. And this is where I get really ticked off, because I'm like, well, then why doesn't the employer pay more? Come on now. But it is what it is, so I think we just have to admit it to one extent. But at the same time,
it is important to know that your server, especially your food server, is probably not even making minimum wage.
Right.
Because they assume that they're going to make up for that in tips.
That's changing.
It is.
It's changing a little bit. But anyway, okay, let's give some tips. Okay, so number one, Uber. We want to talk about Uber for a minute. Because a lot of people use Uber, or Lyft. A lot of people are using that out there. And they're like, how much do I give? What's appropriate? What is the person who's driving me around expecting? And expecting appropriately. And what would be over the top and what's not enough and all that. Okay, so Uber just put this out. So this is how they kind of think about it. And I think that's kind of nice to keep into consideration. Should you tip? They say yes. How much? 10 to 20% of the total fare, or usually $1 to $2 on short rides and $5 to $10 on long rides. But that 10 to 20%, that's where you've got to get into agreement. Is it 10%? Is it 15%? Is it 20%? Talk about it. If one's 10 and one's 20, compromise. Do 15. Don't argue about it. That's just not necessary. So do 15. But I think Uber's a good one just because, like even in cab rides and stuff in the past, I've thought, do I have to give full 20? Should I give the full 20? Oh, this guy seems like, I was making more of like emotional decisions instead of necessarily doing it in a systematic way.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Awesome.
All right. So let's talk about some other category. This advice actually comes from Emily Post. So she's got great tipping guides as to how much. We're also going to have a blog post about this. So it's going to be great. So we're going to put all the numbers in there. But here's some things. So there's such a difference now. You've got wait service at restaurants where they're actually taking your order. You've got the wait service where it's like from a buffet, for example. And then you have when it's not wait service. You're just going in, picking up something, and leaving. All three of those, there is a tipping appropriateness in them, and they're different. And so thinking about them in those three categories, I think, is a really, really good idea.
Yeah.
So wait service, sit down, all right? 15 to 20%. Now, we have landed at 20%. That's where we are. We just feel like, especially because of Scott's past, he just knows that they live off of this, and they just so appreciate it. And sometimes it's just $3 or $4 more, and they just so appreciate it so much.
Now, if the service is terrible,
oh yeah.
So like I punish my waiter or waitress by only tipping them 15%.
Right.
There was one time that the service was so bad, I tipped 10%, and I let them know that the service was terrible. But if the service is awesome, 20% is where we're there.
Absolutely. But that's, again, where we agree. If you agree on 15,
you might agree on 15.
That's fine. All right, wait service more like a buffet, where they're not actually serving you enough food, but maybe just refilling your drinks and things like that. That's 10%. That's what's appropriate. Now, what about when you're doing takeout and so on and so forth? This says there's no obligation to give. So like, for example, let's say we order a pizza, but we go in and we pick it up and we leave, okay? That would be, I'm not talking about takeout as delivery. I'm talking about where you go in, you pick it up and you leave, and they have those tip jars and you're like, do I need to leave anything for this? And so on and so forth. Here's what's appropriate. You have no obligation if you go in and pick up the food, none whatsoever. But if they do something above and beyond, then it's appropriate to give $1 to $5 tip. So what would be an example of above and beyond in that kind of situation? Let's say I asked for ranch dressing to go along with my wings or something. And they say, oh, I put some extra ranch dressing in there for you. Or
well, let's say you're ordering a pizza and it's your birthday, and it's pepperoni and they spell happy birthday in your pizza. That's never happened. But I'm just saying, if you're watching and you own a pizza place, you should think about that.
There you go.
That would make me give you a tip,
there
especially if you showed me. I put happy birthday and pepperonis on your pizza. That's just cool.
That's just cool. All right. So if they do something above and beyond, that's a really, really, really important. Again, a lot of this, for any of the ones that you're just like, is that appropriate to give? If somebody goes above and beyond, give a tip. If they don't, you don't have to on those questionable areas. Let's see. Bartenders, $1 to $2 a drink. Let's see. Restroom attendants. Now here's interesting. Our
Where
son
are
just
there restroom attendants?
a lot in overseas.
In Europe, that's true.
We went. My son just got back from Germany, and he's like, I couldn't believe there was like people standing there helping guide you as to which stall to go into and stuff like that. It's appropriate to tip those people.
I don't know if I agree with this one. The housekeeping?
Okay, so let's do a couple sky caps. Okay. $2 for the first bag, $1 for additional bags.
I've used that for years because I had a mentor that told me that's what you do.
Doorman, $1 to $4. Bellhop, $2 the first bag, $1 additional. Housekeeper, if you have a housekeeper out there, $2 to $5 per day.
Oh, I thought that was talking like about hotels. Would it be a housekeeper at a hotel?
No, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Housekeeping.
Right, but do we?
We don't.
Yeah, that's
now.
One.
Here, this is one that we
I never thought about that one really.
But here's the thing. Sometimes in hotels, we've had to stay in a lot of hotels because we do a lot of traveling with our speaking and all that kind of thing. Sometimes in the hotels, the person leaves you a note and says, you know, Susie, I'm your housekeeper, and you know, hope you enjoyed it and stuff like that. It's kind of a little tip that they are thinking they're going to get a tip. So we'll leave sometimes $1 to $2 a day on that.
That's you leaving that though, because I don't even think about that.
I know. But you know, in some hotels they don't, and it's a different person every time, and so on and so forth. Do you know that we stayed in a hotel and we actually left about, I think like, I want to say $20. It was called Cade's. Cade left $20 on the table, and when we came back, it was gone. And we asked, the housekeeper admitted to it. She said, oh, I thought that was my tip. So I'm like, $20.
I'm like, really? We're at a Holiday Inn Express and we're tipping you $20
right,
for the first
exactly.
day.
It was kind of weird, but at least she admitted it and gave it back. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like you've got to think about the circumstances. And then also a lot of times the hotels will tell you if tipping is appropriate or not, especially overseas. All right. Any other ones you want to talk about? You know, I think about hair stylists. That's a big one.
I tip.
Hair salons. Okay, 15 to 20% at hair salons, but then ask them to split it among those who served you. Sometimes a different person washes your hair, then cuts your hair, then colors your hair. It's 20% total in those kind of situations when you know a lot of people, and then ask them to split it. So 15 to 20% is appropriate there. Manicurists, 15 to 20% is appropriate. Facial, waxing, massage, all that, 15 to 20%. 15 to 20% is starting to be kind of the norm.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, honey?
Yeah, I would.
But we've really got to make sure that we agree on that. And I am like a definite, no matter what, 15% or 20% when they do a great job. We know that when we go out to dinner, it's always 20 because that's where Scott. So we've talked about this. We've had this as a tension point inside of our own relationship. But really important to think about it and to not just, because it's money and it's important. And it's important that you're responsible with it. But at the same time, also there's opportunities to be generous.
Yep.
You know, we were sitting in a church service and the pastor, this really spoke to me. He talked about how, you know, gosh, you know, how much you would bless the people that you go and you know, you go to a restaurant and you give them, you know, 20%, but you just add $1 or $2. Do you know how much that blesses them? And do you know that there's a lot of people who work in restaurants who dread the Sunday afternoon crowd because they're so stingy? It's like, give me a break, people. Come on now. Let's be Let's be generous. Let's be generous givers, but let's be real intentional about it at the same time.
And get on the same page.
And I know it's it's been a real process for me. I mean, I have to say this whole tipping thing, even though my primary money personality is spender and I do love to give, I love to give to people, I love to give to organizations, this one's always kind of, I've wrestled with it, I think because I've watched my parents wrestle with it. And so I really have, but Scott's really helped me with it, and it's nice to be on the same wavelength about it. So you can too. No money fights. Stop them, stop them, stop them.
Yeah. Wow. The hands kind of went a little crazy there. Anyways, hey guys, we just want to give you that perspective on tipping.
Yes.
Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes.
If you have any questions, if you have any comments, hit it. We're going to shoot this blog out too, so feel free to read the blog and give us your comments there.
Yes, and we'll have this on our new YouTube channel.
Yeah,
We're
and if you're
excited
in
to
the
introduce
service
that.
industry
Yeah.
and you have some awesome stories about either being really blessed with a tip or really not blessed with a tip, I have to tell you, I was really blessed as a server a couple times where people would leave me. I remember this one guy left me like a $50 tip on a $25 tab. And yeah, and it was just because he knew we had so much fun, and I goofed around with his kids, and I think he just wanted to bless me. And so, you know, as many bad horror stories as I have some amazing stories about where people just showed up, saw a young guy who was probably struggling right out of college and really blessed me. So send us those stories too, because we love them. We love you guys. Thank you for being part of our amazing Love and Money community. And as always,
make it happen.